Welcome to my cherry guide for UFO 50's Grimstone. The cherry requirements are to beat the game with all party members alive. Basically, we just have to beat the game since we can resurrect party members throughout the run, no problem. If you've beaten the game and don't have the cherry, simply continue from the main screen and play the last section again, making sure at the end of the fight all party members are alive. The last fight is all that matters for the cherry. Don't worry about your team getting wiped earlier or anything like that. This will not void the cherry. In my run, I lose a few times. At the start of the run, you get to pick 4 characters to save. Each character has different stats and skills, and also each have special interactions in the world. I pick Bull since he's good at using a variety of weapons, just good old DPS in fights. I recommend getting at least one of either Doc or Umbra since they gain the ability to heal. I go for Doc in my run. Umbra is the character in white. I also pick Maria since she's good for combat but also is good for another purpose later in the run. I pick Rufus mainly out of principle. You don't get to control Rufus, so sometimes he can miss turn after turn, but in the same sense he can hit often when I'm messing up, so it's less pressure on me. One positive I like is not having to invest in weapons or armor for him. Rufus does have a low health bar, so often you can get unlucky in that they just focus him down at the start of a fight. Still, I like travelling with a dog, so I go for that. Talk to the angel outside to get 200 teeth, which is this game's currency. Also, you can name your crew if you want. In the shop, you're going to want to buy the pistol in the first town. Teeth are easy to obtain and scale as you progress, so spending 150 to 200 here is no problem. I even spend the extra money on some armor for Bull. The other building of note is the hotel. Most towns have this, and for a small price it can heal any living party members to full, and also refresh their skill points and remove any negative status. To start with, I always go southwest since there's a place that provides free healing and a few items we want to get. Combat is quite simple for now. Depending on your party, you may learn skills later on that you want to use. My party will learn the odd skill, but generally I'm able to brute force my way through most fights. The attacks in this game are all down to timing. You'll need to hit either in the yellow or the red bar. Getting it in the red segment will be a critical hit. Each enemy has an evasiveness stat, so with some enemies you're going to want to land the crit hit to hit them. The crit hit can never miss, even the most evasive of targets. Simply with practice you'll figure out the timing. There are also different types of weapons that are easier and harder to hit. Some enemies are faster than others, so typically it will be the case that some enemies will hit you first, then your party will hit, and then the rest of the enemies will hit you. In terms of target selection, I typically pick to kill the harder hitting enemies first, and then the fast enemies. You can learn roughly what enemy's health is like, and target accordingly. If you select a target and it dies, it will then select another target randomly to hit. Since I have Rufus in my party, he will always choose a random target. I like to target the faster enemies first in most cases, especially once we start using healing items, since it means we know exactly when we need to heal, and we don't have to worry about getting hit before we have the chance. Any experience you gain in fights is split among any living party members. I'm going to skip a lot of the combat in this run for the sake of saving some time. There's a huge variety of enemies and it will take me a long time to go over them, and often you don't really need to go in with a certain strategy. They all have different attacks, but usually assuming you target the biggest threat you should be fine. I'll still include any major fights, but general combat I will likely skip. You will find churches like this across the world, typically in towns. This is where you'll spawn in if you lose all your party members, and also if you leave and re-enter the game. Whenever you want to leave the game, make sure it saves by looking for the icon at the bottom right of the screen. It saves whenever you enter and leave towns, and also whenever you rest. In the chests in this church you can find holy water, which can be used to resurrect a dead party member, as well as an antidote which can cure poison, and a dog treat that we're going to go ahead and give straight to Rufus. There are 3 types of dog treats you can come across. Dog treat A increases health and attack, D grants health and defense, and E grants health and evasiveness. Now I'm going to cut around a bit. I personally like to farm up some levels here since you can talk to the man in brown to heal for free, and also you can resurrect party members here. It does cost teeth to resurrect party members, but you should be gaining teeth at a faster rate than you'll need to use them. Also, like I mentioned, if you lose all party members you'll be revived at the church, and it will always cost half of your current teeth amount. So now I've farmed everyone to level 4, except for Rufus, but he'll catch up shortly. Doc has learned the skill to shield, which increases an ally's defense. Typically with skills like this you can continue to apply them on the same ally, so bear that in mind. Many various party members have skills they learn that are useful for combat, so make sure to try any new ones out when you get them to see what they do. You can refresh any skill points by resting or with certain items which we'll go over in a bit. We're going to head to another town in this area to get as equipped as possible. The town we're heading to is to the north of Pleasant, which is where we started. Enemy spawns in the overworld can be annoying since sometimes if they spawn in front of you, they're unavoidable, whereas sometimes they spawn behind you and just chase you, meaning you don't get into combat with them at all. Often it's just luck, but you can position yourself in a way where you can kite most enemies if you have enough space to work with. It's worth noting enemies only move when you move, so you can stand still to evaluate if you can dodge the combat. Just bear in mind, if they come into contact with any of your 4 party members, the combat will initiate, so often it's unavoidable. Here is an animal. It's worth interacting with any of these you find if you have Umbra in your party, since they give you a choice of skills. I won't be showing all of them, since I won't be using them in my run, and I'm also not sure if I know where they all are anyway. Now we're at the town of Santonio. I start by going shopping and pick up some new gear. I'm going to stock up on some bandages as well since we're going to go into a dungeon section soon. There are lots of extended sections like this, so having healing is always very useful. Doc is handy since he's more effective with healing, meaning the items heal more and you also get more uses out of them. For most healing items they get 2 uses if Doc is in your party, but later on they get even more. Also in this saloon here you can purchase root beer if you have the teeth. This item can be used to recover skill points, so if you have a party that's very reliant on that, make sure to pick some up. My party doesn't have many skills at the moment, so I don't need to spend on it. Up here is Santonio's church where you can revive party members if needed. There's also a gun store, but Santonio doesn't have too much new to offer us. Only the coach, which is good, but a bit too expensive for us at the moment. To progress, we're going to go to the left of some mines. Make sure to heal at the hotel if you need to. I cut it out, but I actually get into some combat outside first, since I spent all of my teeth beforehand, so I need to get some more to use the hotel. The hotel will cost a different amount in each town, usually increasing as you progress through the game. I'll be doing a lot of the story steps without talking to the people that give you the clues as to what to do, so if you're curious how I know where to go, it's simply because I've played before. If you want to figure it out yourself, make sure to talk to NPCs, as often they give you clues as to your next objective. So now we're at the mine, I'm going to speed my way through it. There are lots of chests off the beaten path, but often they just contain odd items that aren't worth the time in my opinion. Feel free to explore if you're strong enough though. I just find it easier to make it to the end of the area first and then returning if I want to farm XP and teeth, since any time spent looting chests is more time for enemies to get in combat with you. Even with healing items, you'll want to be careful that you avoid combat as much as possible in these long sections. There's one chest I do take a detour for here since it has a particularly good item. You can also avoid the combat encounter if you go below the chest. Here we get the pepper box, which is not only a stronger pistol, but it shoots twice each turn. It's worth noting that for any multi-shot weapons, the first shot will always be on the target you select, but extra shots will be on a random target. Now at the end of the mine we have a boss fight, so make sure you're healthy. As you can see, when I use a bandage it becomes a band half. This is due to having Doc in the party, meaning each bandage can be used twice. Now for the fight itself. Usually in fights like this I take out the enemies in front first, since their health bars are much lower and then there's less attacking me. Since Doc is weaker in combat, if I need to use anyone's turn to heal, I use his. You may also have noticed I used the skill points I had on shield, which I applied to Bull. In this chest here we get the toolbox, which is a crucial story item. Now I'm going to head back to Santonio to heal up and also restock. I use all the teeth I obtain to kit out my crew in wool, leather and bandanas so that they're as strong as they can be going forward. If you're confident, you can save your money, but like I said before, as we progress through the game the teeth we get through combat will increase, so saving a few hundred teeth isn't a big thing. I also come back before leaving to fill up on bandages. Now we're going to head right to a bridge that we need to fix with the toolbox to progress. There is an optional cave to the south of the bridge. I'm not going to do it, but it's worth noting that in the cave you can save someone, then if you go to a house located to the south of the mine, you can get a reward of 500 teeth. At this bridge we can give them the toolbox to fix it so that we can progress. In this new area there is a town to the east, but there are some enemies in the town which will stop you from being able to revive there. I want to train up a bit before fighting them, and just in case I lose a party member, I want to do that locally to Santonio. The town to the east does have a hotel you can access, but as I mentioned earlier, it cannot revive dead party members, at least not yet. Since this area has some new enemies, I'm going to use this area to farm some more XP, going back to Santonio to heal when I need to. I'd at minimum get to level 6 across all members, however I will be getting to level 7. It depends on how much time you want to spend grinding. The new enemies in this area are pretty standard, but it's worth noting if you come across red coyotes to focus them since they can bring in other enemies to the fight. Hilariously, the enemies they add to the fight can also attack in the same turn, which is kinda BS. So now we're level 7, we're going to continue onwards. You can spend some of the teeth you got on the coach shotgun if you'd like, but since Rufus doesn't need a weapon and Doc is very weak, I only really need 2 strong weapons. I'm going to get a better weapon for Maria shortly. Make sure you're stocked up on healing and anything else you need. One thing to note if you do want to get a shotgun is to make sure that your party member can wield that weapon. You can see that in the stats screen. Before going east to the new town, we're going to go north. You can head to the town first if you'd like, but I'm going to get an item that will make the fight in the town easier. If you've grinded like me, you likely have a lot of teeth. For that reason, you may want to head to the town first to spend them there, since there is access to a shop. Alternatively, there's a bank in Santonio that you can leave your teeth in. The rough ground you can walk through does do damage to your party, so avoid it when you can. There's also a glistening spot here. In the Overworld, that means we can use the forage ability to get various items, typically items that restore health or SP. Since I have Rufus, whenever it's convenient for me, I'll use all my SP on forage, since there isn't any other skills I need the SP for. This is the Black Prison. We will need to traverse this dungeon eventually. For now, I'm just going to get a weapon from a chest. The reason I do this separately to doing the dungeon is because the chest is very out of the way, so likely you want to leave and heal by the time you've obtained it anyway. The long rifle is great if you have someone that can use it. It deals high damage but is harder to get the hit on. Now we're going to head south to the town of Heston. If you need to revive someone, I suggest heading back to Santonio first. Also, if you die at any point after looting the chest, you'll still keep the rifle, although obviously if you get wiped you'll lose half your teeth, and if you're like me after the grind, you'll have a lot to lose. Like I said, you could always head to Heston first just to spend your teeth before going to the Black Prison. Welcome to Heston. To start with, we're going to heal at the hotel. Crucially, from this location you can buy bedrolls. Make sure to grab a few of those. Bedrolls provide a small heal to the whole party as long as you're in the overworld. This heal is enough to fully heal us at this level. Also, crucially, whenever you use a bedroll, you will despawn any enemies that are nearby, so you can use them to avoid combat. Just bear in mind they won't work in dungeons or in combat. I buy 4 bedrolls, restock on bandages, and then buy some better armor across the board for my guys. I give everyone bolo, leather, and snake, except for Doc who gets a wall instead of leather. There is a gun store next door that sells more pepper boxes for 800 teeth, so maybe save some teeth for that if you need better weapons. Now we're going to fight the boss enemy in the area. The main reason we're doing this fight is because it gives us a lot of XP. It also gives us access to the church and the train station. This enemy has very high evasiveness, so you'll want to make sure you're hitting those red crit spots. Also consider unequipping the coach if you have one equipped. If you lose or decide to reset, you will be sent back to Santonio since you can't access this town's church until after you've defeated the demons. I get lucky and keep my entire crew alive, although if you wanted to level up one character more than another, you could let some of your crew die to funnel the XP into the characters you want. Generally, if you can, you should keep them similar level though. There is another fight in the Sheriff's Hut, although this one is much easier. You can even heal in the hotel if you want to before the fight, however I don't bother. And from that, we've unlocked the train station as well as the church on the left side of the town. I'm going to heal and then restock at the shop before heading out. So now we want to head back to the Black Prison. Thanks to the experience from that boss enemy, we're a lot stronger. Make sure you're stocked up on bandages or root beer depending on what you need. I use a bedroll before going in to get my party to full health from the encounters leading up to this point. Obviously we grabbed the long rifle from this area earlier. There are other chests that you can loot for teeth and other consumables, but as always I opt to skip them to avoid as much combat as possible. In this doorway at the end of this floor is an encounter, so heal and prepare accordingly. As always, I skip a lot of the chests on floor 2 as well, although I will take a small detour for 2 chests that give us a fair bit of teeth. Then I'm just going to make my way to the end of the floor. We have a boss fight at the end of this floor. As long as you're prepared, you should be fine. And now we free the Angel. They give us info about the story and how they burned down the saloon. More importantly, they allow us to access an area we couldn't access before. They also give us a feather, which is a consumable that will allow us to travel back to our most recent church, which we will do. Now we're back at Heston, I'm going to heal at the hotel and restock at the shop. Make sure to sell the emerald if you grabbed it like I did. I don't have the best armor on dock, but I decided not to spend more teeth on that since we'll get access to new towns soon with different stores. So either from Heston or Santonio you can head to the new area we've unlocked, they're a similar distance. If you haven't freed Leo from the Black Prison yet, the Angels here will not let you pass. As always, I skipped the chests in this section since anything they contain is easily purchasable. Now we're through the pass, we can head north to the nearest town. And with that, we're in Auster. It has a hotel like any other town, however the church for this town is actually located in the saloon if you need to revive anyone. Then we're going to go to the sheriff's hut and talk to him. For 5,000 teeth he'll give us the skill for focus. This is great for people that use rifles since it makes them much easier to hit, hence I'm going to give it to Maria. I only use focus in combat where I know it will be a long fight, since often it's not worth losing a turn to apply focus in shorter fights. You can buy more copies of the focus spell from the sheriff, although I'll just stick with this one. The store has some new gear for us, restock if you need to. Now we are optionally going to go to the rail station and we're going to unlock it. To do that we need to fight Hyena Joe, so be prepared for a fight before entering the train. As always, we're mainly doing this fight for the XP. The train access is nice, but honestly I won't even use it. You could honestly focus Hyena Joe here, since if you defeat him you win the fight. I choose to focus on the red coyotes, since they do still do damage and I want as little as possible to worry about. Hyena Joe can always summon more red coyotes, so bear that in mind. Also bear in mind if you're using Rufus like me, you may want to get rid of the easy enemies so that Rufus will have to hit Hyena Joe. Unfortunately, Rufus gets killed here, so he misses out on the XP. I end up wasting a bunch of money because I go to the hotel before reviving Rufus, so I end up spending another 120 teeth to heal. Now that we're back on the road, we can head either north or west. To the north is a town that we can liberate, which has free healing and also a store. Note that there is a fight you have to do before you can go there. We will pass this town later on, so I'm going to leave it for now. To the west is another town we have to reach to progress the game. For now, since we're in a new area with higher XP yield and tougher enemies, I'd suggest grinding a bit before continuing, since the journey to the next town isn't short and the enemies in this area are tough. You can also use the teeth you get from farming to buy some better armor from the store in Auster. These enemies are good for XP, particularly if you come across a bisonman, which gives 1800 teeth and XP. With the money I got from grinding, I decided to buy one poncho to give to Bull and then give the hand-me-down to Doc. Now we're a bit higher level, we're going to head west to make our way to a new town. The path is a bit winding, but if you follow where I go, you will find it okay. And now we've made it to Rio Valle. This town is infamous for its criminals and scams. I immediately go to the hotel to heal, this one costing 200 teeth. Then by this world there's a gentleman selling a mirror for 10,000 teeth. This item is required to progress, but there are other ways to get it. You'll notice he's distressed. This is due to him owing 10,000 teeth to someone. If you have Maria like me, you want to make sure you have 4,000 teeth, since you'll be able to settle his debt for him with that much. If we talk to this dog, we can get a clue as to where a useful item is for Rufus. Then I go into the shop and I buy the Sidewinder for Bull, giving his old pepper box to Doc. This puts me low on teeth, but I can easily farm the 4,000 I need, although that is our next port of call, so bear that in mind. There are other weapons you can buy here. I haven't bought any shotgun or heavy weapons before now. They are high damage and easy to hit, however have no crit spots that can easily miss enemies with high evasiveness. I won't get any of these types of weapons until later, but they are powerful and worth considering. There's a woman by the church selling a horse. This is a scam, although thankfully it isn't too expensive. There's also an old man selling a medkit in the saloon for 8,000 teeth, which is a good healing item, but not worth 8k. There's also a bandit outside the saloon that I fight for fun. Now out of Rio Valle, we're going to take a slight detour north. This is where you want to go if you have Rufus in your party. We will pass by a church, but it's not like the other churches. We'll be back there later on once we get the mirror. Behind this cactus is a dog treat which we will go ahead and give to Rufus. Then we actually head back to Rio Valle to heal, and also I decide to farm for the 4,000 teeth I need before continuing. Now with Maria and 4,000 teeth in hand, we're going to head west towards a cave. On our way we get into a rare encounter with a jump bean. These are always worth attempting to kill since they give tons of XP and only do 1 damage each turn. Unfortunately, they have a ton of health and have a tendency to flee before you get the kill. They also have high evasiveness, so you need to hit the crits to do any damage. This is actually the first time I've managed to kill one. I'm going to cut to the end of the fight since it literally took minutes to kill it. We run into another jump bean, but it runs away pretty quickly as you'd expect. Now in the cave, we meet Bad Betty. If you have Maria in your party, you have the option to pay her 4,000 teeth. If you do this, you get access to an item called coffee, which you can buy from her. If you have anyone in your party that uses a lot of skills, coffee is basically a better version of root beer that restores much more SP. You can also find a coffee in the pot nearby. Alternatively, if you're not interested in the coffee or paying her, you can fight her. And now we go back to Rio Valle to talk to old Ned. On our way back, Doc hits level 16 and learns the spell for heal, which is great if you want to save some inventory space on healing items. The heal spell obviously doesn't heal as much as the healing items do, but if you stock up on coffee in your inventory, it takes up a lot less space to do more healing in the end. I typically keep a mixture. Since we dealt with Bad Betty, he gives us the mirror we need. Not bad paying 4,000 instead of 10,000. Again, you can only do the 4,000 deal if you have Maria, otherwise it's either fighting or 10,000 thief. Now with the mirror in hand, we're heading back to the church we were near before. If you speak to the churchgoers, you'll realise this place is very suspicious. In the chests, we can get some free teeth though. Now if we talk to the pastor with the mirror, we'll see his true form and be thrown into a battle. Once we've beaten the pastor, we can head into the basement. As always, I ignore the odd chests and proceed to the final room. Here we get an encounter, and more importantly, after defeating it, we can pick up the key. You may have noticed if you explored the cave with Bad Betty in it that there's a locked door there. This key is for that. So a quick trip to Rio Valle and then back to the cave. We use the key to unlock the door, then head into the mine. As per usual, I choose to skip on the chests, but feel free to detour for them if you're strong enough. Now at the other end of the cave we can head west to find another town. This town is El Pasaje and it is abandoned. You can head into the mine for a dog treat. I go ahead and give this to Rufus. Sleep in the hotel for free, and upon waking up, we awaken in a town that's no longer ruined. If you have Bull in your party, you can talk to the gentleman in front of the store and he'll give you the skill for Protect. Then if you head to the northeast of the camp, you can talk to the guy there to pay 8,000 teeth for the mine skill. This is great for earning money and you'll easily earn back that 8k. I hold it in my inventory for now since I'm unsure who to give it to. It costs a lot of SP to use, so bear that in mind when deciding who gets it. Upon leaving the town, it will return to its deserted state. Make sure to return here if you need a free heal since there's no other town nearby. Then we're continuing west to find another mine. Now into this mine, believe it or not, I skip over most of the chests again. You can follow the path I take to get to the required item. The enemies in here are tough, and if you get wiped, you have to go all the way back to Rio Valle, so it's a long trek back. Similar to the forage spots, we can use mine in these spots here to get minerals. Minerals are mainly good for selling, however there is one you want to keep if you get it, that being obsidian. I decided to give the mine skill to Maria since she has the most SP after Doc. I could give it to Doc and use items to regenerate the SP, but I opt to keep Doc always available for healing. Definitely consider your options. In hindsight, I probably would have given it to Doc and then just used coffee or other items to regenerate the SP after. I get insanely lucky and get obsidian. Don't worry if you don't get it, there is a surefire way to get some when we will need it, it just saves a lot of time grinding money later on. And in this chest at the end of the area we find the detonator, a key item required to continue. There's also a tough encounter just before, so be prepared for that. Now the long trek all the way back to Auster. We need to try to get back to El Pasaje in order to save the game. Once we do that, since there are no churches since Rio Valle, we can exit to menu and restart the game to travel back quickly. In my case, I die on the way back. It's a shame to lose 6,000 teeth, but we still get to keep the detonator, which is all we need. Not only did I get lucky and get obsidian when I was mining, but I also got diamond, which sells for a whopping 10,000 teeth. I'll go and sell that now. You may remember earlier there was a medkit for sale in the bar at an extortionate price. If you have Doc in your party, you'll want to get the medkit from him. Now's a good time to do that. I forget in my playthrough and end up having to come back here. That's why there's a cut here. Now we make our way back to Auster and then north towards another settlement. Here we are at Fort Jason. They're under attack and we need to battle these demons before we can enter. Since we could have come here earlier, this fight is quite easy for us. And now that that fight's done, we can enter the fort. It has a shop and a place to rest. In the shop, we buy some charms to replace our neckwear, and then we'll go to the right building to heal. If you have Doc in your party, you'll want to go upstairs and talk to the man in the bed. There he will ask for a medkit, and if you bought the one in Rio Valle, you'll be able to bring it to him and get the skill for revival. Very useful. I forget and had to go back to get it, hence the cut here. You can use spells even when a character is dead, in this case meaning Doc can revive himself. Useful if you don't want to spend on reviving at the church. From Fort Jason we can head east, and since we have the detonator we can pass through. If you want, you can enter this area to farm XP and teeth since the enemies are stronger, and then go back to Fort Jason whenever you need a heal. I'm skipping any chests as per usual. Particularly I do that here since there's a long section here before we reach the next town, so make sure you're prepared. I opened this chest here since it's nearby and it has a coffee for us. We now come across these cave entrances. These first two entrances aren't required, however you can go in there for some extra chests if you want. Just beware of this passageway that I'm showing here since it will spawn encounter after encounter and it's unlikely you'll be strong enough to stay alive. This entrance here is the one that we actually want to go through, and then we simply follow the cave along. It's quite a linear path. We have a mine spot here that you can use. I already got lucky and found some obsidian earlier, but I still want to mine here in order to get some more teeth. At this point we want to head north first and follow that pathway around. We need to go into this house to get a key item, the Devil Horn. You can also rest here. In this house we find out that Rufus is their dog. Make sure to check the dog bowl for another dog treat. And now back out the way we came. From here we go into this entrance. Since we got the Devil Horn from the house earlier, we can start the fight with the Scoria Worm. I realised after entering the fight that I should have given Doc some coffee in order to use his skills. I decided to just go for attacks, but in hindsight I'd use that coffee anyway and then just chuck some defense on my guys. After that, the lava will clear and we can pass through. I got very lucky in that fight with a worm, missing its attacks. Arguably, I was a bit underleveled for it. Finally, we're out of this section, yet not home free yet, as we have a small trek north to get to our next town. Be cautious as the enemy encounters here are very strong. I used my final bedroll to avoid this combat before being forced into one just before the town. Thankfully it was an easy combat. I could have very easily got hit by some tough enemies here though. And with that we can breathe a sigh of relief as that section is over. I was arguably very underleveled for it. And now we're in Lawbuck. Immediately we've got a more expensive hotel, but still much better than nothing. Up here we can access the church if needed, as well as the shop. This is the first shop that sells medkits. I've managed to accumulate a decent amount of teeth, which I'm going to use to get a new weapon for Bull. You can see there is some good armor here, however I decide to prioritize the weapons first. So over here's the gun store. I get a Peacemaker for Bull which attacks 3 times each turn. As always, I then give Doc the hand-me-down. Now we're in a new area, we're going to farm up some more levels while staying near Lawbuck. We're also going to use the teeth we get from this to buy weapons. If you find yourself needing teeth more than levels, you can go back into the mine spot we found in the cave and get a bunch of gems from there to sell. It also gives you more chance to get a Basidian if you haven't been as lucky as I have. And here are my stats and gear after the grind. My aim is for minimum level 24 across the board. I also use the teeth I gained to buy a buffalo for Maria and a duster for Bull. And now to head south towards the Cactus Temple. Go into the temple and they will give you an elixir of the cactus. Then if you leave, you'll find yourself in a new realm. You can follow the path I take here to quickly get to the end. I will actually detour for one chest near the end that has some good boots in it. And now we go into this structure here and head to the boss of the area. Be wary of poison in this boss fight. You should have some antidotes on you, but even if you don't, assuming you beat the fight and then die afterwards, you'll still keep the progress. Upon defeating the boss, we can return to where we entered and there'll be a chest with the key item Horseshoe in it. Then we're going to return to Lawbuck to heal. I make sure I'm stocked up, then I leave all my teeth in the bank since I'm likely to die in the next section. The next section is another slog. There are a total of 4 boss enemies for us to encounter. Thankfully, once you beat one, it doesn't return even if you die, hence why I'm sort of happy to die in this next section. It's also worth noting that you'll want plenty of antidotes for the next section, at least 4. If you have Doc, similar with other items, each antidote can be used twice. So from Lawbuck we head to the north until we see a Black Monolith. Then we can use our newly acquired horseshoe on it to allow us to enter. We'll then get teleported to this new area. This is quite a linear path, but there are a couple dead ends, so you can always just follow the route I take. Then we make it to the main tower. The first floor is arguably the worst since it's full of enemies that can afflict poison. This is why I suggested bringing antidotes. As per usual, I'm skipping all the chests, at least on this floor. If you do get poisoned, consider waiting to use an antidote until before the boss or before you leave the floor, since it's likely you'll just get poisoned again anyway. I get really lucky with encounters on the first floor, not running into any encounters, and not getting poisoned. Here we have our first boss fight. Good luck. Bear in mind, if you can, you will want to unequip shotguns or heavies since this boss is likely to evade your hits. And now on to floor 2. You can use the portal to walk to the entrance of the tower, however you'll still have to backtrack all the way from there. Sometimes dying is just more convenient. We continue through floor 2 as normal. Some of the chests here have decent weapons in them, but I'm personally not too focused on those. And now for the floor 2 boss. You may get the theme of this area. Thankfully from now on there's no more poison. And we're on to floor 3. Most chests on this floor literally contain nothing, so don't waste your time with them. And here we have the boss for floor 3. After the boss, there is a chest here with an actual item in it, and a good one at that. Another dog treat for Rufus. And now for the final floor, floor 4. At this crossroads, we're actually going to go off track to get a weapon I do want to get. It is a trek though. Be ready before approaching the chest since there's an ambush just before it and it's a very tough fight. For our trouble, we'll get the Hellfire, an improved pistol for Ball, and of course, Doc gets to hand me down again. Now we can continue to Leo the Angel and the final boss of this area. As per, I avoid the rest of the chests. And now for the final boss of this section, Death itself. Unbelievably, I made it through the Black Tower in one attempt on this run. Thankfully with Doc I had plenty of healing, plus I got very lucky with lack of encounters and difficulty of encounters. but defeating death will get the ability to fly. Now the world is truly our oyster. Bear in mind if you dismount for any reason, such as entering a town, you'll have to remount using the mount options in the menu. First things first, I'm going to return to Lawbuck to restock, which is vertical from where we start riding from. I'm going to withdraw anything that I have in my bank as well. Now that we have the ability to fly, there's a lot we can access. First I'll showcase what is available to us, and then I'll show you a good spot to farm. Obviously you can also easily return to any towns that we've already been to. First we're going to finally do what we've been saving our obsidian for. If you weren't as lucky as me and didn't manage to mine any, you can buy one for 100,000 teeth at the hotel in Pleasant, the very first town. And now for the forge where we can get a demon to craft us a great weapon, the Calamity. It's located west of Pleasant. I'm going to give this weapon to Maria. We can find the town of Agartha in the southeast of the map. Here you'll want to purchase any gear you need. To the southeast of Pleasant we can find this church. Here you'll get a key item that is needed to progress. We'll need it to destroy 3 black obelisks scattered around the map. There's also someone in here that sells unlimited dog treats for Rufus, so if you have Rufus in your party, I would suggest getting at least one of each, or you can go as overboard as you want after you've been farming. Also, if you have Bad Betty unlocked, you can use this opportunity to easily stock up on coffee. And now for our farming spot. I'll show how to get to it from Lawbuck. Remember earlier when I said to avoid this passage due to encounters? Well, now is a good time to actually go there. This is a great place to farm since it often spawns crocodiles which give a lot of XP. Plus, now you should be strong enough to survive the constant fighting. Just bear in mind, if you try to leave back the way you came, you'll still run into more encounters, so plan ahead. You can even just walk back and forth on the first 2 slots. I often aim to have my party at roughly level 34 at the end of farming just to be safe, but farm for the items you're after and then see where you're at. Now we're ready to tackle the final area. Here is the equipment I have set and also my stats. I bought armor and the Inferno from Agartha and picked up other armor from previous towns. I also bought several dog treats for Rufus, 2 attack, 1 defense and 1 evasive. First, we have to destroy 3 black obelisks around the world. Starting from Lawbuck, you can follow me to find all 3 of them. There's 1 in the southeast, 1 in the northeast, and 1 to the west of Lawbuck. I'll do that one last since it's closest to the final dungeon. Simply interact with the obelisks to destroy them. And now that all 3 obelisks are destroyed, we can access the final dungeon. In this dungeon, the primary goal is to make it to the end as always. There are however 6 orbs we can interact with to make a shortcut, which is obviously nice for if we fail. I will show you where all the orb locations are, and for the final time I will ignore any and all chests. Admittedly, there are actually some good gear in these chests, I just feel strong enough without. Orb number 1. Orb number 2. Orb number 3. Orb number 4. This one's guarded by a tough encounter, so be prepared. The cherry requirement is to beat the game with your entire party alive, so make sure to pack some holy water. Even if you have the revival skill like I do, there's a chance that they kill Doc and then there's no way to revive him in battle. You can always quit and re-enter the game if someone does die and you can't revive them. Now it's time to face Malice. I intended to swap weapons around so that Bull wasn't using the heavy weapon, but I forgot. After defeating Malice, we learn that we have another fight still to go. It's time to face Biggin. Last chance to restock. I actually lost this fight intentionally since Biggin one-shot Doc. Like I said earlier, you'll want to keep some holy water so this doesn't happen. When I return, I remedy that. Biggin and Malice will team up. It shouldn't be a problem if you're as farmed as I am. I mainly use Doc to make sure the team is healthy, but obviously as the final boss fight there are some big attacks they can throw out. And there we have it. For beating the game with all party members alive, we get the Grimstone Cherry. If you win with a party member dead, just continue from the main menu and fight big and again. Definitely one of my favourite games I've played. I still struggle to believe just how in-depth these games go. I also pray that this will end up my longest UFO 50 video because goddamn, this is a long one. Thank you so much for watching.